Decoded.
Welcome back to Book Decoded. Ever, devoured like an entire bag of chips, like right before a diet even starts?
Oh, yeah.
Well, today we're going to be digging into the psychology behind like why we eat the way we do.
Yeah.
With Sarah Dosanjh's book, I Can't Stop Eating.
Right.
And it's not just another diet book. It actually flips the script and focuses on the how of eating.
Yes.
Instead of just the what.
It's so fascinating how the book, it just starts by normalizing overeating. It points out that, everybody does it at some point, you know?
Right.
It really challenges that, all or nothing thinking that we often get stuck in with food.
That's so true.
Right.
I've definitely had, my share of Last Supper moments before starting a diet.
Oh, for sure.
The book really gets you thinking about when overeating actually becomes a problem.
Exactly. It's not just about the amount of food. The book defines problematic overeating as when it causes distress or anxiety,
Right.
or impacts your mental well-being. It's about recognizing those emotional and psychological consequences,
Yeah.
rather than just focusing on the number on the scale.
That makes so much sense.
Huh.
The book also dives into how traditional dieting can actually worsen this cycle of overeating.
Right.
It uses the example of Emma, who initially saw success with dieting, but then found it harder to stick to the rules over time, leading to more intense binge episodes.
It's like dieting sets off this chain reaction in the brain.
Ooh.
The book explains that when we restrict ourselves, our brains go into survival mode,
Yeah.
perceiving this restriction as a threat.
Yeah.
This can lead to intense cravings and ultimately more overeating.
That's incredibly insightful.
Yeah.
And it's not just about people who are actively trying to lose weight. The book mentions Bethany, who only started dieting after having a baby.
Right.
Her focus on calorie counting led to a disordered relationship with food, even triggering anxiety about the accuracy of food labels.
It's amazing how dieting, even with seemingly harmless intentions, can morph into this complex psychological and emotional battle.
Absolutely. It really highlights the need for a different approach, which is where intuitive eating comes in.
Yeah.
The book talks about honoring your hunger and respecting your fullness.
It's about tuning into your body's natural cues and rediscovering the satisfaction factor in eating,
Right.
rather than relying solely on external rules and restrictions.
The book uses a really interesting analogy. It says, our bodies aren't simple furnaces, but complex systems with varying needs.
Right, and that calorie counting can actually interfere with our natural hunger and fullness cues.
Yeah.
It's about moving away from that rigid mindset and learning to trust your body's signals again.
Now, the book doesn't shy away from the emotional side of eating either.
Right.
It dives into the 4 common types of overeating.
Exactly. It talks about binge eating, bulimia, emotional eating, and stress eating, all of which are rooted in deeper emotional and psychological patterns.
The author bravely shares her own struggles with bulimia after experiencing rapid weight gain, emphasizing the importance of body acceptance in this journey.
Yeah.
It's really powerful stuff.
Yes, and it highlights how societal pressures and fat shaming can contribute to these negative feelings about our bodies,
Right.
making it even harder to break free from these patterns.
It's a delicate balance, though. The book acknowledges the potential for real prejudice based on weight, while also challenging the assumption that every fat person overeats.
That's an important point.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that body image goes deeper than just appearance, and cultivating gratitude for what our bodies can do rather than constantly criticizing them.
I love the idea of shifting our focus from what we dislike about our bodies to what we appreciate about them.
Yes,
It's a simple but powerful mindset shift.
absolutely. It's
Yeah.
about retraining your brain to focus on the positive aspects,
Right.
which can have a ripple effect on your overall well-being.
Now, the book introduces a practical tool called the RALIC method,
Yes.
which sounds like a helpful way to interrupt those automatic eating patterns.
It stands for recognize, accept, lean in, and choose. It's a mindfulness-based approach that encourages you to become aware of your pre-binge thoughts, feelings, and circumstances.
Okay.
Accept the present moment without judgment, lean into those feelings,
Yeah.
and then make a conscious choice from a place of awareness.
That's a fantastic framework.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a bit more on what leaning in actually means?
It's about embracing your feelings, moving towards them, rather than away from them, experiencing those sensations in your body without judgment.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to push away your anxiety, for example, you'd focus on the physical sensations of anxiety, that racing heart, the tight chest, the shallow breathing.
That sounds like a really powerful technique for building resilience and self-awareness.
Exactly. It's about getting to know your internal landscape, even the uncomfortable parts. and learning to navigate those feelings without getting swept away by them.
This has been so insightful already, but there's so much more to unpack.
There is.
It's like having a step-by-step guide to navigate those tricky situations.
Yeah.
Instead of just feeling like you're constantly fighting against yourself.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about achieving like perfect control, but about gaining freedom to choose.
Right.
So let's break down the first step. Recognize.
So is this about hitting the pause button and becoming aware of like what's going on before a binge even starts?
That's the goal, but the book acknowledges that it takes practice. You know?
Right.
Think about it. We've spent years developing these like automatic habits around food. It's like trying to learn a new dance move, like in the middle of a fast song.
It takes time to get those steps down.
So how do we get better at like recognizing those moments?
The book suggests starting small, practicing the RALIC method in non-food related situations. Like imagine you're having a disagreement with a friend or feeling overwhelmed by your to-do list.
Yeah.
That's a perfect opportunity to practice.
So we can use those everyday moments to kind of like flex our RALIC muscles and build up that mental fitness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Then when you're faced with like a food-related challenge,
Right.
you're better equipped to handle it from a place of awareness.
Okay, I'm starting to get the hang of this.
Yeah.
So once I've recognized what's happening, what's the next step?
It's A, which stands for accept.
Okay.
And this is where things can get a little tricky.
How so?
Because accepting doesn't mean giving up or liking the situation.
Right.
The book stresses that it's more about acknowledging what is without judgment. Like if you do overeat beating yourself up about, it won't change anything, right? It's like adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly. Acceptance is about saying, okay, this happened, now what? It's about stopping the struggle and moving forward from a place of self-compassion.
This reminds me of something else. The book mentions the problem with comparison.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like comparison can make acceptance even harder, especially when it comes to body image.
It's the ultimate trap, comparing our insides to other people's outsides.
Yeah.
We never know the full story of what someone else is going through.
The book uses this fascinating analogy about lottery winners.
Oh, yeah.
Even though they've achieved this massive external change, studies show that their happiness levels often return to their baseline within a year.
Interesting.
It's like that saying, wherever you go, there you are.
It's so true. Real change, lasting change,
Right.
comes from within. And that starts with accepting where we are right now.
Okay, so we've recognized the situation, accepted it, even if it's uncomfortable. Now it's time for LI, which stands for lean in.
Yeah.
This one sounds a bit mysterious.
It's about getting up close and personal with those feelings that often trigger overeating. Instead of avoiding them or numbing them with food, we're going to move towards them.
That sounds a bit scary.
Yeah.
Like, what if those emotions feel overwhelming?
That's a valid concern. But the book explains that leaning in isn't about forcing yourself to feel everything all at once.
Okay.
It's more about gently acknowledging those feelings
Yeah.
and noticing where they show up in your body.
So if I'm feeling anxious, I might notice that my chest feels tight, my heart is racing, and my breathing is shallow.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing those sensations without judgment.
Right.
It's like observing a storm cloud passing overhead.
Okay.
You don't have to get caught up in the wind and rain, but you can acknowledge its presence and let it pass.
That makes so much sense. It's about building that awareness and allowing those feelings to kind of run their course rather than getting swept away by them.
Precisely. Leaning in helps you become familiar with your internal landscape, even the uncomfortable parts, which is crucial for breaking free from those automatic eating patterns.
This is already so insightful. I feel like I'm gaining a whole new understanding of how to approach my relationship with food.
I'm glad to hear that. And we're not done yet. The final step in the RALIC method is C, which stands for choose.
Okay.
But before we dive into that, let's take a quick moment to reflect on what we've covered so far.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
We've learned about the importance of recognizing those pre-binge moments, accepting the present moment without judgment, and leaning into our emotions without getting swept away by them.
Right.
A lot to take in, but also so empowering to have these tools at our disposal.
Absolutely. And in the next part, we'll explore the final step
Just choose.
and how it empowers us to make conscious decisions that align with our values and goals, even in the face of temptation.
Yeah, so we've covered recognize, accept, and lean in. Now let's get to that final step. Choose.
It's the empowering part. You
Yeah.
know, after going through those first 3 steps,
Yeah.
we're in a much better place to make conscious choices that align with like our values and goals.
So it's about shifting from that like reactive state
Yes.
to a more responsive state.
Exactly. Instead of feeling controlled by our urges, we're taking back the reins and making like deliberate decisions.
Yeah, but I imagine it's not always easy.
It definitely takes practice.
What are some of the challenges that people face when they're trying to like apply this method?
One common one is feeling overwhelmed, by emotions when they're trying to lean in.
Okay.
The book like advises not to force it. If it feels like you're spiraling, just acknowledge those feelings without diving too deep.
So it's kind of like dipping your toes in the water before jumping in head first.
Exactly. Meet yourself where you are with compassion.
Okay, I like that.
Another challenge is figuring out what actually works for you. The book talks about Gretchen Rubin's 4 tendencies framework.
Oh yeah, I've heard of this.
Have you?
Yeah, it's about understanding how we respond to expectations.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, are you an obliger, a questioner, an upholder, or a rebel?
Right.
Knowing your tendency can really help you personalize your approach.
That makes sense.
Like, obligers might need external accountability.
Right.
While questioners might need to be like convinced that a strategy makes sense before committing.
So it's recognizing that like there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. And the book goes even deeper than that,
Okay.
It explores these personal themes that can really influence our relationship with food.
Like getting to the heart of the matter. What are some of these deeper themes?
Well, talk about self-worth.
Okay.
How low self-worth can trap us in this cycle of like striving and failing, which further erodes our sense of ourselves.
Yeah. It's like our relationship with food becomes a mirror reflecting our relationship with ourselves.
Exactly. The book also challenges our need for control, especially when it comes to food.
I can relate to that. It's like this constant battle of trying to micromanage every calorie and food choice.
The book reminds us that our bodies aren't machines.
Yeah.
It encourages us to like surrender to the reality that we can't control every aspect of eating.
It's about embracing that flexibility and intuition rather than striving for unrealistic perfection.
Yes. And then there's fear. Fear of life. Fear of failure. Fear of the unknown. We often use food to numb those uncomfortable feelings.
It's like building a wall between ourselves and those difficult emotions.
The book encourages us to face those fears head on, recognizing that true freedom comes from acknowledging and working through them.
It's a reminder that food is not the enemy.
Right.
It's often a symptom of deeper emotional and psychological patterns that need to be addressed.
Exactly. And finally, the book emphasizes the importance of boundaries.
Okay.
Both with ourselves and with others.
This makes me think about setting limits around food, but also about prioritizing our own well-being in all areas of life.
It's about recognizing our needs and communicating them effectively, which can be so empowering.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into I Can't Stop Eating.
It really has.
We've learned about the RALIC method and all these deeper themes that drive our eating habits and just the importance of self-compassion throughout this whole journey.
It's a book that really challenges conventional thinking, and offers such a refreshing perspective on a topic that so many people struggle with.
If you're ready to break free from those overeating patterns and cultivate a more peaceful relationship with food, we highly recommend checking out I Can't Stop Eating.
And remember, you're not alone in this journey. There are resources and support available for anyone who needs it.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Book Decoded.
Yes, thank you.
We'll see you next time for another insightful breakdown of a book that can transform your life.